Okay, hello internet. So, on that last video about Linux, I got a couple comments that I kind of wanted to discuss. So I will read them out and then I'll discuss them. So, the first one was from Roller. He says, "Ladies and gentlemen, we found a gatekeeper. Although I won't criticize you for, I assume that's supposed to be being one, I can somewhat understand why some people would not want new users to contaminate the space. But if you wish for Linux to have greater market share and relevance in the desktop space, this won't do any good." So, the main claim for this one is establishing me as a gatekeeper. And then also with the assumption that I don't want new users to contaminate the space. So I think we should I want to examine those two claims. And the other one was a second comment by Ailier. So he says, "People can do what they like, include being annoyed by new Linux users. Maybe try ignoring any foolishness and embracing new users, or don't, discovering something for the first time. People have been programmed by society to gripe about everything. Some have good reason. Changing to something new can be a difficult thing to do, especially when the something new is a more complicated path than what they've been spooned for 35 years. Now, I don't actually disagree with this comment. I think it's quite a bit more intelligent than the last one. So I wrote a response here. I said, "I personally don't care whether Linux gets more popular or not. I'm content with the state that it's in. I'm just sick of the corporate sympathizers. It's one thing to use Windows, it's a whole nother thing to be proud of the fact that you use Windows. The person who sort of epitomizes this mindset for me, though, is Linus from LTT, which is Linus Tech Tips, if you're not aware." Then I said, "I forget which video it was, but one of the clips where he brought the sword and shield and had a narration about how you crush things with the power of free and open source software, but then it cuts to Linus with a sobering analysis. I said, that honestly angered me a little bit. People who aren't willing to put in effort or learn new things, I think, are honestly best staying where they are." So actually, I did manage to find the clip that I was remembering, and it's like 30 seconds, so I'm just going to play that right now. It was from the, it went quite viral, 3 years ago now? Yeah, 3 years ago now. And then this was part of the Linux challenge for the part 2.
"Death to Microsoft! The open source community is ready to send you to your grave! Your tyrannical reign over PC gamers is at an end! Freedom!" Is what I would say if I lived with Linus Wallace III over here in Fantasyland, where any of that was true. So far, the 1-month Linux Gaming Challenge has been as advertised, a challenge. And in part 2, Luke and I are going to be taking it to the next level.
Yeah, it was just that first part. There's no point of continuing with it. So I wanted to examine this comment a little. He establishes me as a gatekeeper, and he doesn't really make an argument as to why, I don't think, with this comment. He just claims it. But I think my main point in the previous video is, if you're not willing to make any changes, and if you don't care about anything about why this operating system was created in the first place, then, Linux probably isn't for you. I mean, I'm not going to say that's a good thing or you have a good mindset. I mean, I disagree with it. But you're never going to have a good time with it. Then he says here, new users to contaminate the space. So I wonder what exactly I was saying that contaminates, that made him think that I didn't want new users into the space. I honestly, I'm stumped on this one. But my personal opinion on expansion is I don't really care either way. I'm not responsible for whether people switch or not. I'm not an evangelicist. I mean, personally, I'm content with the state that it's in. So whether there's more people on Linux or not, I don't particularly care. The last video was more about what I'd wish people would do differently. And I think it goes above being a new user. Like, it's some sort of mindset. I think fundamentally it's a very arrogant mindset. Because, you know, what Linus does here, you know, in the skit, you know, he's mocking the principles of freedom and privacy. I mean, he'll deny it, but that's what he's doing. And then he was going back to the part where I was talking about strawmanning the entire community. Because I honestly don't know where he gets this impression from, because I honestly have no idea. I mean, am I the only one that feels this way? I can't be the only one that feels that way. I mean, just think about it. He creates a skit where he brings in a sword and shield and gets even face painted his face to act as a warrior that's supposedly supposed to represent like the Linux community or people who advocate for it. And he cuts to himself with his, as I said, sobering analysis to say it's a fantasy. But the problem was the fundamental mindset is he wants a one-to-one experience, and that's just not going to happen. And he doesn't care about anything which Linux is based off of. He doesn't care about any of the principles behind free software. I mean, for him, it's just a comparison between two different things. Like, he doesn't care whether it's proprietary or whether it's open. It's all the same to him. He just wants a better product. And obviously, if that's all you're concerned about, then Linux is never going to be that. It's just never going to be. Windows is backed by millions or billions of dollars. It's probably billions of dollars, but millions of dollars of investment into development of the operating system every year, with billions of users around the world. I mean, desktop Linux is just never going to compete with that, and to expect it to is sort of, it's wrong in the first place. But it goes beyond just, because this is actively mocking. I mean, this is actively mocking an open source community where things are completely out in the open. You can take the code, you can fork it, you can distribute it. You have all the freedoms that come with free software. It was actively mocking that in favor of Microsoft. I mean, that's terrible. So then we have here for this, I don't think it's foolishness. I think a couple of the things, like I said in the video, like when I talked about, using a real operating system and don't be, fooled. not fooled's the wrong word, but don't search up on the search engine top 10 best Linux distros and it takes you to some arch spin that was created a few months ago or something. But that's, for that part of the video I agree, because that's something you'll probably learn over time if you stick with it. But I was more talking about in this comment of the more like Linus type of worldview, and I think that goes from trying something new. It elevates into arrogance, and I think once you step over that, then I think you're just being immoral at that point. But he says here, people have been programmed by society to grope about everything. Some have good reason. Changing can be a difficult thing to do. So it seems this commenter fundamentally agrees with what I was saying, but he's saying that we as Linux users should take the abuse, or take the we should be patient with them to learn better. But I don't really understand this mindset, because I don't think I owe them anything and they don't owe me anything. So why exactly do I need patience, especially because my objective in the first place has never been spreading Linux desktop market share. Whether I accomplish that or not, it's a zero-sum game for me. It doesn't care. I don't care one way or another. That was never a goal of mine. So I disagree with that. I can see where people are coming from, but I don't know. I can't agree with it. Okay, that's it. Goodbye.